Welcome, everybody, to the Salt Lake City franchise here on MLB The Show 25. We are square in the middle of season number 5, about 80 games in to the season, 80 games exactly, actually, as we enter the month of July. And as we get to the month of July, this is the area of the season where you really start to analyze your team. Are we going to be contenders? Are we going to be sellers at the trade deadline? Are we going to be buyers? And I think this year, for the first time, we are actually buyers. We have a top 5 hitting offense as far as batting average goes. Our farm system is pretty top heavy at the moment, but we have some pretty good prospects like Johnnie Francisco. Fell to us last year at pick number 8 in the draft, and he is looking pretty good. And we've recently moved him up to AAA, and I've talked about this in past videos. I wanted to add a 4th pitch. Sweeping curve seems to be kind of the more realistic option that he would have. And I'm going to give him the exact same ratings on his sweeping curve than he does on his slider. It just gives him a better, breaking pitch that he can also throw along with that slider. And I'm going to have those organically grow together. Enrique Reyes is up to 74 overall, and he is also actually batting versus left-handed pitching as well. If you're new to the series, he was a two-way player we found in Discovery, and we drafted him in the 3rd round 2 seasons ago back in Season 3's draft, and now he's in his 2nd full season in the minor leagues. Last draft, we drafted in the 2nd round infielder Derek Sinecor. I knew he came in with higher contact ratings, and I knew that he would be a pretty clutch player as well. I'm still penciling him in as one of the future players in the middle infield. Now, he is a great fielder. His arm strength is definitely not going to be great, so probably his long-term outlook is going to be at second base. But I think that after, this season, I can start to evaluate him into being, a potential starter in the middle infield, or at least a good bench infielder. Now, he does not have the high upside, but I think if he can hit for high average, you never know. Like, he could be an everyday starter in the infield. Because he does have a high contact rate versus left and right, it's definitely a lot more valuable. And I think that this is going to be a guy that is going to be vying for, a future in this organization. And I don't see any scenario where he is not a part of our future, despite being only 78 potential. So before we get into the draft, here is a scenario here facing O'Neal Cruz, a player we were going after in the offseason. He ends up signing with Washington. We were actually going after James Wood as well. We didn't sign either of them. But here on a 2-1 pitch, and this is a nice ground ball by Casto over to third base, and we get the out at first. Guy on third, 1 out. That's an excellent pitch. That brings up Keibert Ruiz now. 1 out away here from a save here late. The 3-2 pitch up in the zone is going to be just high and outside for a called ball 4. Bryce Eldridge to the plate now with runners on the corners, and Casto does get the swing and miss. And we will win this game 6-5, as these close victories, I've been talking about them for the last couple of years, but this year we are really starting to close them out. Less comebacks and more closing them out. And I just love what we're doing here as a ball club. Michael Vigil in this game went deep twice, 3 RBIs. So we enter the month of July now, and we end up winning 4 of our first 6 games in the month. And then we have a major injury, another one. Christian Yelich, broken shin, 1 to 2 months. Now, this is an injury that doesn't take much recovery time. It's not going to be the full 2 months. As I've played MLB The Show, I've kind of grown to, learn these injuries and how long the timetable is. This is about a 45-day injury. So I don't feel like I need to make any big move to replace Christian Yelich. But I do want to have a guy available. Now, Max Murphy was a guy that I would have moved up. He is also on the injured list. And then Sal Frelick is also on the injured list. So we are down a couple of outfielders. So I do want to look at a pretty cheap option that we can just acquire temporarily. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a starter per se, just a guy that we can acquire. And then when Yelich and also, Sal Frelick come back, this guy can be a bench bat or a good pinch runner. Enrique Bradfield Jr. was interesting, but B potential is probably going to take a little too much to get him, and I'm not willing to give up, any good prospects. I would rather swap equivalent player or a prospect that I don't really have plans for. Jacob Berry also caught my eye. He could be decently cheap. And like I said, I just need somebody to fill in, and he actually fits the bill pretty nicely. Will Brennan is 31 years old, does hit extremely well versus right-handed pitching, hit 284 a year ago, hasn't got that opportunity this year, but his slash line was actually pretty good in kind of a elevated role for him for that 1 year. But I decide to go after Hunter Bishop from the Giants. Now, he is 30 years old, and just taking a look at him, his contract is super cheap. He has really good power versus right, good fielder. And this is a guy that seems like a pretty low risk to get. And I look at him and, 77 overall, he's an MLB level caliber player, just probably hasn't gotten the opportunity yet. And at AAA this year, he's hitting 253 with an OPS of 750. Like I said, I'm not going for somebody that's going to be an amazing player, just a fill-in guy here. And the one guy I am willing to give up is Bryce Matthews, because Bryce Matthews, the experiment is probably finished at this point. I gave him a chance last year at the MLB, and he's 26 years old. And at this point, if he's not hitting better than Bob Engel, than Elvis Esparza, and now Derek Sinecor, I don't think that he's going to fit into the future of this middle infield. So this is kind of an easy, light trade for us just before the middle of the month of July. And we will acquire Hunter Bishop in a 1-for-1 swap. So we will actually move him up to the majors right away, get him some at-bats just to get his momentum going versus MLB pitching. He's facing Jake Irvin from the Washington Nationals here, and the Nationals are, like you can see right there on the screen, 38-55, one of the worst teams in the NL. Here is Bishop. He gets a good pitch right there and just fouls that one off. That eventually brings it to a 3-2 count, and he will go around. I think that was an awful call by the ump, by the way. That pitch was way out of the zone, and we barely tapped the button. But on to the bottom of the ninth inning, now facing Devin Williams on the mound as he does sit on that curveball and will end up hitting that to second base. And he will have an 0-for debut for Salt Lake. But here in the bottom of the 11th inning, here is Eric Alvarez, who got moved up within the last few weeks, and he comes through with a walk-off single to center field. And we end up winning this game as Daenerys De La Cruz also gets moved up, and he gets some playing time. And Eric Alvarez, a guy that you probably haven't heard of in this series, who was just getting moved up because I want some of our, I would just say like older prospects to get some playing time just in case we need them. And we end up actually doing pretty well in Christian Yelich's absence along with Sal Frelick. We win 4 of 6 in week number 1. We win 4 of 6 in week number 2. And now we sit here at 51-44 right before the MLB draft. It's incredible. See the team rankings, 28th, but yet we're one of the better hitting teams, which is incredible. So let's start our 5th draft in this series, and as you can see, we have 6 picks like we usually always do. We're picking at number 9, 45 in the second, and the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Now, one thing we have done in scouting this year is we've done a lot of discovery. I haven't discovered a ton of players, but we do have some good ones. But our number 1 rated prospect that we have on our board is Emil Valenzuela, MLB ranked number 11. So there is a big possibility he will fall all the way to us. Very good player all around. He can really do everything. He really has no weakness to his game. The second guy I'm really considering is Andres Soto, and Soto is going to be a potentially B potential if I have to really guess. 18 years old, can play the field really well, high contact rating. He's pretty well-rounded, but probably not as fast as we saw from Valenzuela, but I think he's a good option. If those two guys aren't on the board, I think we would be taking a risk here, but Babe McGraw is one of the most well-rounded prospects in this draft. Very good, 8 overall MLB. Does not have a weakness to his game, except he is 74 to 86 potential. But if we end up going pitching, there are a couple of guys I have my eye on. The number 1 rated prospect in this draft, MLB-wise, is Sammy Amaros. I don't expect him to fall, but he would be a good potential prospect for us to draft. I don't think that's going to happen to us 2 years in a row, but you never know what's going to happen. But we did end up in discovering Sammy Taveras. Now, he is not ranked. So my, history with this game tells me that not ranked prospects usually fall in the draft. So he should be available in the second or maybe third round, but I don't want him to fall too far because he is way too good to pass up. Then there's Sergio Ramirez, who is number 2 ranked. I don't expect him to fall, but he is very well-rounded as a pitcher. Now, his pitch velocity is pretty low, and we've drafted a couple guys like that, so I don't know if we would end up going after him. So with the first pick of our 5th year draft, it will be Max West going to the Minnesota Twins. He is the number 3 rated prospect in baseball, and our scouts also have him rated right there as well. And then we have Sammy Amaros. I talked about it a little bit ago. I didn't think he would fall. I scouted him to 50%, and I was like, no way he's going to fall in this draft. And then number 3, the Rockies, who have the number 1 rated farm system in the majors, go after Jorge Perez. We actually were scouting him, and I also thought that he would not fall to us because our scouts have him rated at number 2. But he was interesting because he was a guy that I really had pegged, but I liked Emil Valenzuela just a little bit better. So as we get through the top 9 picks, Babe McGraw ends up going number 5. Now remember, Babe McGraw was a guy early on in the scouting process that I was zeroed in on. And then I started to get some more information out of Valenzuela and Soto, and I kind of ranked them above him. But look at this. It looks like we're going to have our pick of the litter here because our top 2 prospects who I talked about with Valenzuela and Soto both fall. Let's talk about Valenzuela for a second. 19 years old, 80 is his floor. 80 potential is his floor. And he can be anywhere from 65 to 81 overall starting right away. Like, he is one of the more well-rounded prospects I've seen in this draft class. So I'm definitely considering him as our top option. Another guy I did consider here is Charlton Mathis. Very good infielder. Like, he has very good defensive ratings. However, his power isn't there. His speed isn't there. I kind of like Sammy Taveras a little bit better just because he's got that high contact, high vision. The power is a little higher also. And then one other guy I was going after to see if he was generational was Pedro Rincon. But after all of that, I do decide to go back to what our scouts say and what my eyes tell me. And Emil Valenzuela will be our pick here at number 9. And here we go, finally finding a franchise outfielder. Terrance Madlock, when we drafted him, I thought he would be very good, but he did not have the potential that Emil Valenzuela could potentially have, and I am very happy with that selection. Charlton Mathis ends up going 15. Andre Soto drops all the way to 36, and anytime the Rays draft somebody, you know they're going to be good. So I know Soto is going to be really good. But now we get to pick number 45, and Sammy Taveras is still on the board. We do have some other players we did end up scouting here that did fall, and Jesse Gerber was a guy we discovered. Now, he is probably not as, highly regarded as I am for Sammy Taveras, because Taveras has 85 to 95 potential, overall somewhere between 57 and 67. But an infield prospect that we can really hang our hat on that's high potential, we just don't have that. So this is an easy pick in the second round. Sammy Taveras will be our selection. He is 21, and that's not too old, but I'm wondering if his overall is going to be closer to the 67 than it is to the 57. So on to the third round now. Jesse Gerber is still there. He is still a guy that we scouted, 70 to 88 potential. Now, it does worry me that the floor is 70 though. Like Taveras his floor was 85. So that's a big difference. And I look at some other guys I actually ended up scouting too. We did do discovery at some like key positions in the infield. We did some in the outfield as well, but I wanted to check out a first baseman. But one guy I ended up finding that was actually 100 ranked in the MLB was Ryan Bone. Now, this is a guy that does not have a very high ceiling, 65 to 76 potential, but a high floor at 68 to 79 overall. Great stealing and speed, and pretty much everything across the board looks good. He reminds me a lot of Terrance Madlock when we drafted him, and if I can find another Terrance Madlock, I'm going to take that opportunity. We're going to draft Ryan Bone here in the third round. I just thought that Jesse Gerber at that position did not show that he had high potential, so I ended up selecting him, and I think that that's going to be our selection here. And I think that maybe he has the potential to be something that's really nice. So fourth round here. And I think at this point, I can start taking chances on these guys that we found in Discovery. And Jesse Gerber is there. So he is really our top option here in the fourth round. I wanted to make sure I did not pass up on Ryan Bone. I definitely didn't want him going to another team and then me regretting it after I see his ratings. So we do want to make sure that we do still go after pitching in these drafts. We don't want to draft just all position players. And we have not scouted any relief pitchers in any of our drafts so far. So I want to definitely draft these guys, even if they're probably going to be C's potentials. You know, relief pitching, you don't really have to have like 90 potential. You can be a really good reliever being a lower overall. And I think we're going to take the chance with BJ Green. We also found him in Discovery. And for the first time, we drafted a relief pitcher in the fourth round. This is the highest pick that we have drafted a relief pitcher in this series. It's going to be BJ Green. So 2 more picks left in this draft. On to the fifth round. And I'm thinking, you know, Jesse Gerber is still on the board here. We have some other players we found in Discovery. Carlos De Los Santos. Julio Castro is ranked number 149. You know, I do kind of like his contact versus right. And then I look at some other guys. Kenny Harmon, we barely have scouted here at 10%. I want to make sure I know a little bit more about these players before I draft them. And I'm thinking in my head, you know, if Jesse Gerber has fell this far, he might fall a little further. But maybe I just don't take that chance. He is 38 with our scouts ranked wise, good defensively, and I think we're going to end up selecting him here. Jesse Gerber is the selection. I don't know if I'm not exactly sure how good he's going to be. He might end up being like very low overall. It might be a career minor leaguer, but it's the fifth round, so it really doesn't matter here. So on to the sixth, and this is where you kind of take a flyer. And I think that we have a couple of guys scouted, but, you know, Luis Diaz is way too low of potential, 54 to 75. I just don't want to do that. And I think that that would be too much of a risk here at the sixth round, even being in the sixth round. Like, that is way too low. Alexi Velasquez is interesting. We have him 40% scouted. Now, he could be anywhere from 57 to 68 overall, so he's also interesting. And this is a relief pitcher, so overalls will be a bit lower with these guys. But I do have to make a selection here, so I do go through these guys pretty quickly. Ed Guevara is his name, but then I just circle it around to Jimmy Yoder. Yoder is 31% scouted. We don't really know what he's going to look like, but hits per 9 is low, or high, I should say, as far as potential. And I end up making a selection here, going after another relief pitcher. I'm hoping that maybe, you know, we strike gold here and he ends up being higher overall. His potential probably won't be that great, but maybe it will be on the higher end, closer to that 79 ceiling. So that will do it here in this draft, and I really think we hit on our first 2 picks for sure. I wanted to mention that Daryl Gonzales was a guy I was definitely looking at too in the second round, but he ends up going pretty early. Andre Soto, like I said, fell to number 36. That was pretty close to getting to our second round pick, actually. I'm pretty surprised that these guys actually fell all the way down to the competitive balance round A round. And we almost get really Soto and Valenzuela. That would have been a tailor-made draft for us. Get two young outfielders who have that high ceiling. So let's move into the All-Star break as we naturally do. And for the third straight year, Mariano Castro makes the All-Star game. I'm kind of thinking in my head, should I give Mariano Castro a boost? I mean, 3 straight All-Star games, that's huge. There's not a lot of players that have done that, actually, in MLB history. So I think that I might potentially give Castro a boost, but I don't want to boost my team and not boost other teams. So if I do it to my team, I'll probably do it to the other All-Stars in the rest of our division. Another player who makes it is Oliver Gonzales, the Rookie of the Year a year ago. And my outlook for him was that I thought that he would be a batting title contender this year. And he's hitting .295. He's 8th in the NL in batting average. He is performing very, very well here in year number 2. And then for the first time in this series, we have 3 All-Stars. And for the first time in his career, it's Terrance Madlock. We talked about it last episode. He is on the MVP list. Now, he would be the starter in this game if it wasn't for Ian Happ, who's hitting absolutely out of his mind right now. But he's got an OPS over 900. He's 5th in the NL in batting average, hitting .304, which means he could be going for a batting title. He's also hit 17 home runs at the All-Star break. He could be zeroing in on a 30 home run season. And then he's slugging at .543, which is 4th in the MLB or in the NL, and then 4th in OPS at .925. And like I said, if it wasn't for Ian Happ, he would have been a starter. And Ian Happ is hitting OPS .950 at this point. So Oliver Gonzales is the first to get an opportunity here in the All-Star game with the bases loaded, but he gets robbed right there on the ground ball to the right side. Almost brings in a run or two, but he gets robbed. Mariano Castro here on the mound here in the 7th inning as he gets his opportunity. And the funny thing is he will get to face Oswald Peraza at the plate. And remember, we had Peraza last season for a year, and he will swing and miss at that high fastball. How things have changed for Peraza, because Peraza was terrible for us last year. So here is Castro now facing Adley Rutschman, and he gets his 2nd straight strikeout here. Can he go for a 3rd here in the 7th inning? Corbin Carroll swinging through that one now with the Houston Astros, not the Arizona Diamondbacks. And how about that 1 inning from Mariano Castro? So here is our MVP at the plate. He gets his first opportunity in the 8th inning, and he goes to opposite field. Terrance Madlock gets a hit in the All-Star game, and I love it. Madlock has turned into really our franchise cornerstone. Even with the signing of Royce Lewis, Terrance Madlock is our franchise player. I still believe that. And here is the guy that had stolen a spot from him in the All-Star game as a starter, and that is a stolen base from Terrance Madlock. You got to have some fun here in the All-Star game. Madlock ends up swiping a bag. That's not something you're going to see probably from Salt Lake, but in the All-Star game, everything's on limits. The NL does end up winning this game 8-3. So a very good win here for our All-Stars. And I'm glad to get 3 All-Stars this year. I think that's actually pretty awesome. So now on to signing our draft picks and getting through the month of July. Emil Valenzuela had very high motivation right away. He ends up signing during the first week of signing. So does Jesse Gerber. I end up adding Ryan Bone to the list to end up getting his interest, and right away he signs. This might be one of the easier classes to sign, but I did want to show you guys something that I found very interesting. I simulated 2 days because you have to do it every 2 days, and Sammy Tavares, 89 potential, but now that has been upgraded to 99. Is there a chance that he is a 99 potential player that we found through discovery? That would be incredible. And Taveras ends up signing right away. But what a draft it would be to have a 99 potential player in the second round. But then everybody else signs right away. BJ Green ends up signing. Jimmy Yoder ends up signing. We signed our entire draft class in the span of 2 days. I think they know the future of the Swarm is definitely bright. Royce Lewis to the plate now next here after the All-Star break in a situation with runners on first and second here in a 1-1 game at Truist Park. He hits this one softly to center field. They're playing him deep, and that gets down. It scores one. The runner will advance over to third as Gonzales slides in safe. And we have runners on the corners now with a 2-1 lead. And here is our MVP at the plate, having a 1-for-4 day. He gets one over the middle of the plate and goes with that pitch. That is a single to right field. Royce Lewis holds up as Acuna's got a cannon from right field. And it's a 3-1 ball game. And these games I do want to show because this is the new Salt Lake City Swarm. I mean, we win games, we manufacture runs. This is just something that we have not been able to do in this series. We are winning games, getting like 10 to 15 hits. I mean, this is just the new guard now. And now that we had a draft with Emil Valenzuela, I think that this is going to be a team that's going to be good for a very long time, probably starting now in season number 5. It's taken us 5 seasons to get to this point. But this team is dialed in, locked in, and look at Mariano Castro with another save. Now, he has been top 5 in saves the last couple of years. There is a chance that he could lead the MLB in saves this year if we keep winning like this. And we get a nice victory here, 2-0. And we just defeat all of these teams, and it seems like we're always in this position late in games where we are in front. Just a new position to be in here for the Swarm. Here we are up 2-0 in the bottom of the 7th inning, and Ryan Pepiot is now finding his groove. He has yet to surrender a hit in this one, now facing Mark Vientos. Inside slider, that one will walk him, so the perfect game was not, valid here as that is his second walk, but gives up a base runner. Facing Pavin Smith, who swings at that one inside. And this is the NL East leading Mets, by the way, as Rhys Hoskins now at the plate. And that is a cut fastball low and a swing and miss at that one. So Ryan Pepiot into the bottom of the 8th inning, now facing Acuna at the plate. Ground ball to short. And that's a nice play that time by Mariano Castro, who gets the out at first. And now we're through 7 1/3 inning, and look at this. The manager is going to pull Pepiot, but a good outing from him. We couldn't stay in, and he wasn't even at 90 pitches at that point. But we do get the shutout win versus the Mets, and we actually go on to win 6 straight games in the second to last week of the month. As now we get into this game, top of the 8th, 1 out. And here is Terrance Madlock as he's up to the plate now with a 1-0 game, looking to extend his hitting streak, and he cannot do that. But we do get a nice few wins at the end of the month of July, and I think this team is really starting to streak here at the right time. We don't really, have that post All-Star game slump that a lot of teams have going into the All-Star break. And we go into the deadline not really, in my opinion, not needing anything. Like, we could be buyers. The only thing is, in order to get some of these prospects or some of these players like this, Martin Mota, you have to give up some of your top prospects and some of your top MLB players in order to acquire these guys. And I'm not sure I'm really at that point where I think I need something, but I think if something is available on the trade block, we could make a deal here. But I don't know what the Astros were doing here, or I should say the Diamondbacks, because they give up a potential closing pitcher. That's definitely not a move that I want to make in order to acquire somebody that will contribute at the MLB level. And looking at Christian Robinson here, he is on the IL, dislocated ankle, so I guess it makes a little bit of sense since he is going to be out for this year and the rest of next year. Roosevelt Matson might fill that role. And then they also have Jake Fraley along with Byron Buxton, who will both be hitting free agency. So Fraley has one more year after this one, but Buxton will be hitting free agency. I just wouldn't have made that move for a guy that, I had to give up a potential as a closing pitcher, and he's still in his lower 20s as well. So we are number one in batting average. Terrance Madlock leading the way. He is no longer on the MVP list, though, which is interesting since he's still hitting, pretty high as far as average goes at 316, and the OPS is close to like 950 still. He's slugging at 551, up to 19 home runs on the year. And I'm not sure why he's not on the MVP list at this point, but I'm sure that might correct itself. That may be just the game. But he is up there with the batting title and is in the lead for the Silver Slugger in one of the outfield positions. So he might finish that way, and see how close we get to that MVP spot. So that is going to do it for this video. We'll get through a lot of the month of August in our next video, and probably get through halfway of September, and we'll see where this team ends up landing. And we are in a comfortable position here in the wild card chase. So it looks like we're finally here within contention in the NL after 5 seasons. So hit subscribe, hit that like button. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.